The paper proposed increasing the charitable tax credit. My intellectual difficulty in supporting this proposal is that more than 2 decades ago, when the charitable establishment in Canada proposed removing the tax deduction for charitable donations for individuals and replacing it with a tax credit, I appeared in front of the Finance Committee of the House of Commons and opposed it on a philosophical basis. A charitable deduction simply removes from the donor tax which he would otherwise pay on donated income or property. Tax credit shifts the policy focus to the question of whether any other donor has a lesser cost in making a comparable donation. The case for tax credits in 1988 was simply that rich guys have higher personal marginal rates, and therefore each dollar they donated costs less on an after-tax basis than a poor guy. The appendix to this paper extends that rationale to say that a donor of appreciated public securities with a low cost base receives greater tax benefits than a person who donates cash. Consequently, the proposal asks that the tax credit for donation of cash be increased to equal that for the donation of shares. This proposal is entirely consistent with the economic and policy rationale of the donation tax credit. My concern is that it is yet another step towards defining the culture of generosity on the basis of the tax benefit to the donor rather than on the merits of the social program being funded. It's not healthy for the integrity of Canada's civic culture for every charitable appeal to increase the emphasis on the tax benefit to the donor. The greater the emphasis on tax incentives, the more people look to the charitable sector as a place to design and perpetrate tax scams. The paper states charitable gifts rose slightly in 2007 to nearly $10 billion. This can only be considered positive because the paper does not disclose that CRA denied well over $2.5 billion in claimed donations for tax-sheltered gift arrangements. It is important when assessing the health of Canada's civic core to understand the difference between the quantum of donations claimed for purposes of tax credits and the quantum of funds which are actually received by charities and available to be employed for charitable activities. I regret that I've not been more positive in my response. As a Canadian deeply concerned about our civic culture, I give a great deal of thought to contemporary problems such as homelessness. There is general agreement that a high preponderance of the homeless people in Vancouver suffer from significant mental health problems. There is also a general consensus that the government closing mental health facilities such as Riverview Hospital is a material cause of so many of them being on the streets today. By design, governments have been increasingly downloading social problems onto charities. And by default, charities lacking adequate resources have been downloading social problems onto the streets. My worry is that I am complicit in this increasing social tragedy, because I, as a professional who has incorporated over 400 charitable foundations as opposed to organizations, have made it easy for governments to believe that registered charities are the primary solutions to problems in our civic culture. Increasing the culture of giving is viewed as a solution rather than changing government policies. I've dedicated 3 decades of my life to increasing the culture and tax efficiency of charitable giving. However, when I ponder the trend lines in the evolution of the charitable sector or read papers such as this, I worry that increasing charitable giving without releasing charities to innovate, advocate, and develop sustainable sources of non-donation income is contributing to the problem rather than the solution. The good news is that I am substantially alone in holding these views. The charitable establishment dismissed my views on tax credits in '98 and will continue to do so today. I am very confident that the majority of the charity establishment will support this paper.